Broadcasting from a project studio that's more project than studio. It's Cinema Diabolica's Battle of the Band B Movies. The show that will once and for all crown an undisputed king of Britain's video nasties. And now, here's your hosts, F13 and DZ.
Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Cinema Diabolica. It's the Battle of the Band B Movies. Our features this week are Tenebre and what's that other film?
Cannibal Apocalypse.
That's right, the Cannibal Apocalypse, the movie so controversial that YouTube wouldn't let me use the word apocalypse while promoting this episode. I don't know, folks. I don't know. I'm F13.
This is DZ. I think it's because Diabolical gets in the way of everything.
It's one of those things like in the 1989 or 88 or whatever year it was Batman movie. The Joker venom wasn't poisonous by itself, but it was specific combinations. Diabolical alone isn't bad, but you combine Diabolical and Apocalypse, well, at that point you've got a Diabolical Apocalypse, and we can't have that.
Hey, do you think if we translated everything into Italian that we might be able to bypass the censors?
Si, bueno. I do think that I'm very excited for this week's episode because I legitimately love both of these movies.
Well, I think it has a lot to do with the Saxon.
Yes, it does. We have a double Saxon header, which sounds dirty, but it is not.
That sounds fantastically filthy, especially since he's in one movie nearly shirtless the entire time.
Yes. Oh, John, you're such a sexy motherfucker.
Oh, shit, that has got to become a t-shirt. You sexy bitch. And it has John Saxon's face, just his floating head, you sexy bitch. With
makeup on. And then you can have another one where there's a picture of a condom and it says, please practice safe Saxon. Merchandising. Folks, these are $1 million ideas that I'm throwing out here for free, but that's how I roll. Do we have any
that went somewhere
feedback? It didn't go anywhere, but okay, so we've got a voicemail from a 509 area code. Let's see. Doesn't look to be too long, and I haven't listened to this yet. Let's see what we got here.
We love butt dials.
Tell the boy, no feedback, no feedback. Blah, 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 no feedback. Chanties, woo!
I think that probably deserves another play. Let's give that one more round.
Tell the boy, no feedback, no feedback. Blah, 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 no feedback. Chanties, woo!
All right.
I'm going to hazard a guess that was Demise.
I'll say that it's a self-defeating prophecy because if you call in saying no feedback, then there automatically now is, by definition, feedback. So, you know what I mean?
She said shower titties at the end there, too.
And, well, I mean, as well you should. That is it's a glorious thing to behold, regardless of your orientation or stance or positioning. There are some things that are just kind of objectively good, and that's one of them.
Now, just imagine Channing Tatum in a shower, luxuriating in all of that wetness.
All right, folks, we're gonna need to go to break. I have to change my pants. We're gonna be covering Cannibal Apocalypse right after this break.
Coming up this Friday on episode 238 of The Break Room, we're examining singer Pharrell's attempt to plagiarize the legendary Marvin Gaye's career through the lens of the modern socio-political musical climate, and how his career mirrors that of Gaius Julius Caesar. Just kidding, we'll probably be talking about how we'd like to shit in his giant Arby's hat. That and our usual course of taste buddies and so much more on your favorite podcast if you have nothing better to listen to. Find links to subscribe at breakroom.tv, visit us at twitter.com/thebreakroom, or find us in iTunes.
What do you consider to be unusual?
Oh, I don't know. What do you recommend?
You're listening to Cinema Diabolica.
Have you ever had an Egyptian feast?
Number 1 with a bullet.
My God, son, put it down. Cannibalism. Vietnam vet. Barricaded in the flea market, taking pot shots at the cops outside.
We got it. There's no exit there.
All right. Whew. All right, cleaned up, fresh, so fresh and so clean, ready to go. Our first feature in this corner, hailing from the glorious year of 1980, weighing in at a lean cut 96 minutes, we've got Cannibal Apocalypse, the original title in Italian being Apocalypse Domani, directed by Antonio Margheriti and starring John Saxon and Giovanni Lombardo, someone that is in a few more movies that you'll be watching on this list as well.
Oh, I have no doubt. I'm wondering if Udo Kier is still a contender at this point.
I don't know. That's going to be a tough one. Udo Kier, I don't think he's in any more of these movies, and I think there might be at least one more John Saxon film on this list.
We shall see. We're going to take it to a vote, and then watch someone else is going to blindside us. Like, oh, didn't expect that actor to show up so much.
And how. So let's see. Our IMDb-style synopsis says, Giovanni Lombardo Radice and John Saxon are Vietnam vets that bring back contagious virus. Not a contagious virus. Shitty writer.
No contagious virus.
Okay, I'll have to read it that way now. Giovanni Lombardo Radice and John Saxon are Vietnam vets that bring back contagious virus that turn people into cannibals when bitten.
Well, that was short and sweet.
It was, and you know, it's pretty concise, but that's a fair representation of the movie. There's a bit more to it than that. There's a dynamic between John Saxon's character and his wife, John Saxon's character and the preteen Lolita that lives across the street that he spends a good amount of the film lusting after. Norman Hopper is a soldier stuffed into the shell of a salaryman. It's not him. It's not really his life. You can tell that that's not what he wants to be doing. And that's what it is. His buddy, Charlie Bukowski. Nice. I remember like, nice. When they said his name on the thing, I was like, fuck yeah.
Every time they were saying it, I was like, Bukowski. Super sweet.
Bukowski. He resurfaces in Norman's life, and he has some problems. He talks about their eating of flesh while trapped in a foxhole or a spike pit or whatever. And he just basically he's like the temptation inside of John Saxon's character. That's it's been festering for a while, but this is all the enabling that he needed.
Yeah, it's a weird thing to see too. It's like, are they trying to deal with Vietnam and post-traumatic stress disorder, and how it manifests in this, where it's like, obviously they weren't as sensitive with the material, but they at least tried to kind of cover that because it was a heavy topic in the 80s.
Right.
And to see that, on one hand, John Saxon, it's like, is it a mental disorder or is it an authentic disease? Because, you've got John Saxon who's, up until the Bukowski shows back up, is actually he's fine. He's living with flashbacks and he's still going through therapy, but at least he's dealing with it. He can lead a normal life.
Right.
And Bukowski apparently has no capabilities of leading a normal life. I don't even know why he was let out of the asylum. With the way he was behaving, that phone call sequence is just like, okay, either you're overacting like a madman, or you were told that your character is just totally insane and completely incorrigible.
Right. I feel like this movie there was a lot of allegations to Reagan's gutting of the mental health system in the 80s.
Oh, absolutely. And it even gets, basically comes to a head later on in the movie too, when a doctor gets corrupted.
Right. I had the same thoughts that you did about, is it a virus or a mental condition? Is it mass hysteria? There's later on in the film, though, there is, spreading of the virus or what have you between unconnected people. So it is, I guess, definitely a virus. And I think I would have liked it more if they left it a little ambiguous as to whether it was a a mental condition, if it was mass hysteria that they were suffering. You know, if it was a little bit more like the ending of Matango, you know, where like it's just kind of up to you to decide what really happened.
Oh yeah, because in this movie it just turns into, that's when the apocalypse part of it comes out, and it's like, well, it didn't quite spread like you would expect, say, from a Cronenberg film, because we've seen that in Rabid, and I think he's done it like in a few other films where the disease does spread like wildfire, especially within a confined area. But unfortunately, this takes place pretty much in a city. It's kind of weird how they actually have everything located. It's like John Saxon's house is kind of isolated, but then we're seeing a lot of these city shots, and then we're in the sewers at a certain point. So it gets a little wild and hard to kind of like manage where things are actually taking place. But that was probably a reflection of the budget that they had. We've covered this movie before, and I do not remember what we had said about it initially. I think we actually liked it a lot the last time. This time, I'm not sure if I like it quite as much, but it is still interesting as one of those early attempts at trying to kind of like dissect what had happened from Vietnam.
Right. It does kind of unpack a lot of things, a lot of issues at the time. Post-traumatic stress is not something that we as a country really understood or had any. Definitely didn't have anything in place to deal with. Like I said, Reagan's complete gutting of the mental health system. There's a lot of stuff for an Italian film by an Italian director. There are a lot of very pertinent American issues that pop up for the time.
Yeah, and it is really interesting that an Italian would kind of take on that kind of storytelling. Sometimes it raises the question of, could an American director really, divorce himself from it to be able to tell a story, and would it be better for an outsider to kind of, be able to deal with these things? How you come across those situations in a lot of stories, and it's like, he doesn't do a terrible job at, making it feel American, but there's still that kind of like quirkiness, especially from the Bukowski character and a few others. It's like some things might have been slightly lost in translation, and then of course when it gets like I said past that halfway point, it just goes more into an Italian style kind of film.
Right. Interestingly enough, Antonio Margheriti, for the majority of his career, if not all of it, it looks like, was credited as Anthony Dawson.
Interesting.
Very interesting. Also, he was credited as the director of Flesh for Frankenstein on Italian prints for the quota purposes.
Really?
Yeah, to meet their the filmmaking societies and like registration boards quota purposes of Italian citizens having to do with the movie.
There, it's so weird whenever you come across not just Hollywood, but in the movie making industry in general. It's like there was a Believer article, the magazine The Believer, years ago that said, here's how the movie industry shows that they don't make money from movies at all. Right. And it basically laid out the entire math and how they structure everything. And it was like, that's nuts. And it's almost like this weird kind of island, bureaucracy all unto itself. It's so fucking confounding.
Let's look back at Antonio Margheriti's, a.k.a. Anthony Dawson's filmography. In 1973, Seven Deaths in the Cat's Eye. Good film. And then right after that, also in 1973, Mr. Hercules Against Karate.
That is now on the list.
Yeah, I would really like to see two Americans go to Hong Kong to rescue the son of a Chinese restaurant owner who is being held hostage by his stepmother and the sadistic owner of a kung fu school.
I have no idea what you just fucking said.
That looks fucking amazing. And the poster is these two hillbillies attacking all these kung fu school students.
Oh no, that sounds amazing.
Oh, Jesus
just for
Christ.
the poster alone. What's funny is sometimes I just want to collect these gaudy, posters that the posters themselves are amazing, but the movies are total trash.
Yeah, that's for the most part. Yeah, there's a lot of them like that. Let's see. And
that sounds fantastic. That's oh man.
Oh,
we might have to reconfigure next year.
Your Hunter from the Future. That's one of his that he did. Your Y-O-R. Let's see, and that's kind of it. Your Das Schloss des Grauens, credited Flesh for Frankenstein. Not really too much under Margheriti's interesting entries. Yeah, not really. Let's take a look at John Saxon instead. John Saxon.
Saxon is a fucking smorgasbord.
Interestingly enough, under his filmography, under post-production for this year, it looks like, he's in a movie called Bring Me the Head of Lance Henriksen, starring as John. So there you go. And of course, it might be a documentary. Who knows?
It could be.
Let's see. I'm looking for Cannibal Apocalypse. All right. So right around Cannibal Apocalypse, right before it, we've got Beyond Evil, Electric Horseman, The Glove. After it, we've got Blood Beach, Battle Beyond the Stars, Running Scared. Nothing really notable around this time. I read that this is about when he got divorced and was having lots of money troubles because of the divorce settlement.
I mean, he obviously did Nightmare on Elm Street, but it did feel like in the mid to late 80s that we were not seeing a lot of Saxon.
Right. John Saxon didn't do Nightmare on Elm Street until
84.
Yeah, I'm just looking at. Okay, yeah. So there's a good amount of TV between the two, and it looks like that's like the biggest. You know, this is very telling. The biggest concentration of TV shots that he did were between 80 and 84. Right around the time that he was having huge money problems.
Well, you got to pay the bills. He's got like 200 acting credits under his belt, though.
He was in Scorpion with Two Tails. I have that movie. How do I not know that he was in that? It's a Sergio Martino movie. Yeah. Not too impressive. And if John Saxon is listening to this, I'm sorry for saying. First, I'd like to say, why are you listening to this horse shit? Don't you have better things to do? If I was John Saxon, I would not be listening to this garbage. I would actually be having kinky fetish sex with Heather Langenkamp. But aside from that, I would.
Okay.
I would probably be working on making a return to horror. Because it doesn't look like he's really been doing too much. Oh, no, he was in a Masters of Horror episode. He was in Pelts. The Dario Argento one.
Yeah, that was the one with Meatloaf, who was obsessed with a model and ended up basically cutting his own flesh off. Yeah. A
sleazy, desperate fur trader who haunts a local strip club gets his hands on some priceless raccoon furs that might be more than just priceless, but cursed. It stars Meatloaf, Link Baker, Emilio Citrolio, directed by Dario Argento and written by Mick Garris. Wow, that's a pretty fucking star-studded episode. I can't believe I haven't seen this one.
Yeah, it's okay. Because it was written by Mick Garris, that kind of makes it a problematic. But
right. So yeah, we're not really talking about Cannibal Apocalypse because we've pretty much covered the whole movie. That's pretty much all story-wise that happens. A guy who was in Vietnam and ate flesh to survive is having problems with his obsession with blood and raw meat, and problems with his marriage, and he's lusting after, like I said, the preteen Lolita that lives across the street. Oh, actually, she's not preteen. She's like 16. I guess that's
she's like 16 or 17. But then again, she was coming on to him.
Well, whatever. Let's not start, blaming the victim. And so
she wanted to get bit.
That's what they all say. His old army buddy pops up as a bad influence. They go around munching on people for a bit, and then they have to flee. Yada yada yada. Chasing. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed Cannibal Apocalypse, just like you. Not as much as the first time, but I did still kind of enjoy it. Now I don't know if that's nostalgia or the fact that it's like it's eye candy. It's John Saxon and Giovanni Ribisi. I don't know. I enjoyed it. I can't say why. I can't back that up with facts. Just
okay. Well, hold on a second about the Saxon. Aside from Bring Me the Head of Lance Henriksen, Keoma Unchained as a bounty hunter.
Right. That looks like it might be interesting. I'm hoping that it's not just a. I'm hoping that it's not just a capitalization on Django Unchained.
It more than likely is, but then again, it's not as if John Saxon was. It's hard to say that actually he was ever an A-lister,
right?
Anyway, but there's also one called Fears, and he plays Father John. So when you add some sort of priest position with the title of Fears, who knows? It has potential.
Might be worth it. Yeah, might be worth watching.
So we won't. We won't give up on good old John Saxon because we do like the guy.
Yeah, and he was in Enter the Dragon. Goddammit, that's enough credit to last a lifetime.
Yeah, any sort of rubbing elbows with Bruce Lee, and you're golden, man, golden.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's Cannibal Apocalypse. Let's get to the wrap up here. Cannibal Apocalypse, 14 scenes of violence, gore, or cruelty, 1 scene of sexploitation. Not that kind of movie. It had paranoia, dirty old perverts, John Saxon in army fatigues, allegations to Reagan's gunning of mental health care, viral cannibalism, Lolita lusting, lots of chase scenes, and the most flesh munching in a department store this side of Dawn of the Dead. And that's basically it. So the question comes, does Cannibal Apocalypse deserve to be on the Video Nasties list?
I don't know. I'm going to say not really. No, I don't think it is deserving. I mean, yes, there's some gory scenes, but I don't think they're any gorier than Dawn of the Dead or even really Night of the Living Dead. I think Night of the Living Dead had the more powerful, cannibalism sequences in it. This one, if it had any sex, really, because it honestly doesn't. That one point is barely even a point.
Right.
That might have helped, but even the subject matter isn't really offensive. It's an allegory for what we've already stated about PTSD.
Right.
And even its ending isn't. Sometimes I consider that it might be in the twist ending that might be shocking enough for the censors to go, oh no, that's just too powerful a statement. But in this case, that's not true at all. So I'm going to say no. I don't think it's deserving of being on the list.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, there is a 14 scenes of violence, gore, or cruelty, but it is just violence. It's not really gore or cruelty. There are gore effects, but they're effective, not over the top. It's one of those movies that, with a little bit of editing, could very easily be shown on television. If you edited out, a few of because editing out a few of the more violent scenes or creatively editing them does not affect the overall flow of the movie and doesn't change the movie at all. So I don't know. I just don't feel like it does deserve to be on the list. It's not overtly nasty.
No, it is lacking the nasty.
Mm-hmm. It is nasty deficient, if you will. So
that'll be a disease. It'll be almost like osteoporosis.
I'm sorry, son, but you've got a bad case of nasty deficiency. No,
you need a nasty up.
I need a nasty rectomy. So yeah, that's Cannibal Apocalypse, for better or worse. We got Tenebrae after this.
Fall in, maggots. Your orders are as follows. Cinema Diabolica is now on YouTube. You are to subscribe and like all videos. This is normally where one would explain why and how it helps the show, but I will not be doing that because this is not a request, sunshine. It's an order. Support the show by subscribing on YouTube and liking videos. You've got your orders. Dismissed.
Hey kids, do you want to help out Cinema Diabolica any way that you can? I didn't think so, but I reserved the studio time, so we're going through with this anyway. Here's a few ways you can help Cinema Diabolica right now. Subscribe on YouTube and like our videos. Leave us 5-star reviews on iTunes. Friend us and like show posts on Facebook. And of course, you can drunk dial us at 510-698-9066. And drunk email us at cinemadiabolica@gmail.com. Cinema Diabolica. We don't want your money, just your love.
Filthy, slimy pervert.
I've read all your books, Mr. Neal. The book deals with a murder committed with an old-fashioned open razor, right? This girl, too, was killed with a razor, and your book's pages stuffed into her mouth.
Can I ask you something? If someone is killed with a Smith & Wesson revolver, do you go and interview the president of Smith & Wesson?
Peter, you can't let me down now. We're within 2 days of making a deal. Please, stay just until Friday.
My life is in danger. There's no deal in the world worth risking my life for.
Spy, that little spy.
Hey. Our second feature this week is a little film called Tenebrae. Now, I'd have to assume that most of you have seen Tenebrae.
Yeah, it's Dario Argento.
Yeah, it's really a heavy hitter amongst his films.
And I'm going to say right off the bat, plot-wise, when you start parsing it out, is actually much smarter than it appears on the surface.
Right. I watched this movie. I remember the first time I watched the movie, I said, upon the ending, I said, wait, what? And I put it back on and watched it again. Because it does verge on convoluted. Now, it isn't. I mean, it's right up there. It's involved. We'll put it that way. It's very involved. There's a lot happening as far as the twists and turns, and it. Well, let's read our synopsis and get into that later. Tenebrae, weighing in at 110 minutes and hailing from 1984. An American writer in Rome is stalked by a serial killer bent on harassing him while killing all people associated with his work on his latest book. Now, let's talk about giallo for a second. The standard tropes of giallo are, as Cinema Diabolica says, the 3 Bs, boobs, blood, and black gloves. The tropes are red herrings, the whole idea of the whodunit, the non-police detective individual who tasks themselves with finding out who the killer is, all while being taunted or tormented by the killer. And usually the way that the movie works, it works one of two ways. One, the killer ends up being someone that you saw for 30 seconds at the beginning of the movie and then not again. And when they reveal themselves to the killer, the first thing you say is, "What? Who the fuck is this?" And then when they reveal who it is, you go, "Oh, that's fucking cheap. Ah, fucking bullshit."
And that's bullshit.
Right. And the other way is that they keep throwing red herrings at you, so you keep trying to figure out who are they not trying to force on you as being the killer. So it's basically a game of, it's basically a game of picking the most nondescript character in the film.
And in some cases, they also have what I call the spring-loaded effect, where you're introduced pretty much to everyone, and when you get to the end, that's when they unleash a flood of all this information.
Right.
And then you go, oh, okay, well, we get it, but did it really authentically, reveal itself that way?
Right, yeah, that was not homogeneous.
Yeah. Now, here's something interesting, because basically giallo gave rise to the 80s slasher flicks in America, or late 70s, early 80s. And what I was thinking about after watching this, I was like, what's really the key difference between the American slasher and giallo is that in the American slasher, you very much have it's the victim's fault mentality to it. There's this kind of moralizing to it where it's twisted
moralization, right? The killer has his own moralization of what he's doing.
And it's usually a force of nature. And, you go, oh, okay, the reason why they were killed is because they were committing some sort of sin.
Right.
But in the giallo, it's very clear that they're no, the killer is the person with the problem because they're taking lives. It doesn't matter if the people that they're killing are assholes or, likable. For whatever reason, slashers ended up becoming, hey, let's throw a bunch of unlikable characters no one should even be bothered with and then kill them off to justify it.
Wow. You're saying that something became a weird and a preachy moralization when it became American? The hell you say?
The hell I say. Yeah, in the giallo, they clearly put the weight of what is happening on the person committing the crimes.
Right.
Regardless of even if they turn out to be crazy, they're like, no, you were still killing people.
Right. There's no justification for what you've done.
Right. So anyway, that being said, I was just it's interesting to see the cultural difference between the two types of movies, which are in one stems from the other.
Right. As far as Dario Argento goes, let's see, where is this in his oeuvre? Let's see, we've got where is Tenebrae? Where is Tenebrae?
Where is Tenebrae?
Where is Tenebrae? Fuck. Did he not fucking? Oh, it's.
What are you talking about?
He didn't write Tenebrae. It's under director. Sorry.
Oh.
I didn't realize that was what's going on here. Okay, guys, starting in 1970, Bird with Crystal Plumage, Cat o' Nine Tails, Four Flies on Grey Velvet. Man, these are all fucking awesome films.
Dude, by the mid, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt, but by the mid 80s, he was really hitting it.
Right, that was really hit his stride there. La Cynique Jeanette, Deep Red, Suspiria, Inferno, Tenebrae. Tenebrae, 1982. So Tenebrae comes after Inferno and before Phenomena. Kind of broke up the Three Mothers there.
Yeah, the Three Mothers situation is weird because there was a good 20 plus years, I think, in between the second and third. Opera
87, Two Evil Eyes, the first of many stinkers in 1990.
Well, there's a gap. There's a gap right there. I mean, you got Phenomena in 85 and then Opera in 87. So there's 2 years there, and then it's 3 years before he does Two Evil Eyes.
And then Trauma, Stendhal Syndrome, Phantom of the Opera, Sleepless. And they get into the really shitty ones here, like The Card Player.
Oh, God.
Do You Like Hitchcock and Mother of Tears? And then who even knows? Who even fucking knows what he's doing anymore? And who cares, really?
Well, he's doing Dracula. What are you talking about? I've heard that that's so insanely bad that it's actually watchable somehow.
It's entertaining how terrible it is. Well, right now, I guess it's not even in pre-production. The Sandman has been announced.
Yeah, well, we know how announcements go.
Mm-hmm. So, back to Trauma here. Trauma stars John Saxon, oddly enough, as
Jan Saxon is really John Saxon in drag.
Hooray! John Saxon plays the agent, the writer's agent in this film.
Yeah, which is great because he pulls it off, and he has a weird thing about his fucking hat.
Yeah, that was so weird when he first shows. Look at the hat that I got. It's like, that hat doesn't it fall off if you move your head around? He goes, no, and puts it on and shakes his head around all in circles. And I'm like, what the fuck kind of exchange is this between adults?
Well, if nothing else, it just shows kind of the playfulness that they've actually had this long-standing relationship. So in a way, just having that goofiness between friends, because you know what you're talking about. Your friends can do a lot. You amongst your friends, and them back to you can do the weirdest shit that they would never do in public.
Right. Well,
I mean, admit it.
Yeah, that is, I guess, you do make a good point there. I guess that does work. It was still weird, though.
Oh, yeah.
So, Tenebrae. Yes, Tenebrae. That's what I'm...
Not Trauma.
Not Trauma, Tenebrae. Tenebrae, I'll just come out right now and say I liked it a lot. I liked it because... at the time that I had first seen it, I was on a big giallo watching kick, so I was trying to apply the existing giallo tropes to it, and they do not fit. It is not a giallo like any others. The resolution to the film is very involved, like we said earlier. I am not going to spoil any of it because I really think you guys should watch this if you haven't. It's a very rich tapestry, to borrow a bullshit phrase. There's a lot going on there, and it is very rewarding if you can fucking follow the different threads. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you're gonna have to learn how to say rich tapestry in Latin.
There, that'll make it sound a little less bullshit.
Yeah. Something to make of note too, and we'll get back to discussing the plot line and all that. Is I wrote in big bold fucking letters Goblin in my notes.
Yes, although it wasn't technically Goblin, it was members of Goblin, I think, because they weren't credited as Goblin in the credits.
Right.
It said Simonetti and the other two other guys, but fuck, man, when I saw Goblin, this was the song that got people the most excited to see.
Yeah, it's a great fucking theme song.
It really is. One of their best, I think, if not the best.
Well, and that is why I wrote Goblin so big. It's like that'll be the scale. It's like if we come across more movies with Goblin in it, it's like, oh, that one wasn't quite as big. I won't write Goblin quite so big.
Right.
Anyway, so in this, there are some very strange things that go on. You obviously are following the author as he's being taunted by this killer, it's also the detective's way of being able to track what's going on. And what's cool is the detective is a big fan of the writer's work. So you've got that going on as well. So you've got these different characters. You've got Johnny, who is the intern. I wrote down, is Johnny really wearing Argyle? And he's kind of like the scrappy kid who's really interested in it, but he's also kind of like the most tragic character when it plays out. So he's kind of like a Scooby-Doo element. Then you've got his personal assistant, and she kind of makes fun of him in a couple of scenes, kind of behind his back, like he's complaining about a pillow and she's saying what he's going to say right before he says it. Right. And that was a brilliant scene. I love that scene. You've got John Saxon as his agent, who's taking care of business. But, honestly, he's not really as big of a presence. He's interspersed in a weird way in the movie. You see much more of the writer with Johnny. And then I wish I could remember what the personal assistant's name was. But, it's the three of them. It's almost like a Scooby-Doo thing going on. And the other characters are introduced throughout. I mean, that's, again, a trope of Giallo. And you're wondering who the fuck and why. And it does get, really kind of, tossed around quite a bit. And there is a certain point where you do get your reveal. But it's at a really awkward point in the movie. And you're like, even if you weren't watching the clock on it, you would go, this feels too soon. So there's got to be more to it. Right. And there is, and you were actually fed a little bit of foreshadowing beforehand, but it's like you were never really cued in to who it was related to. Right.
It doesn't become clear what is actually happening. See, that's what's weird is like it's not like the reveal was a red herring in and of itself. The early reveal is true, but that's not all that's been happening. There's more to the puzzle here.
Yeah, so it obviously deals with a little bit of madness, which hey, that must be the theme for this week is madness.
John Saxon and mental illness.
That's going to be the title of the show: John Saxon and mental illness. And yeah, it's again, it's convoluted, but it's just so interesting, that even by the end you are going to go, Wait, because there's actually 2 points. There's a section involving an axe to the back, and I'll leave it as vague as that can sound. And you go, wait, who was that? And then a second later, it's like, wait, what?
Yes. There's several resolutions to this movie.
And it's great too, and it's certainly fun. It might come off as just a little like, you have to suspend your disbelief to a degree, but it's well worth the effort for sure. Right. And also, I made a note here. This isn't the first Italian movie where I've seen a dangerous sculpture.
That is true, but the other one was the title of the movie.
Yeah, in this case, so this movie could have been titled "The Dangerous Object in the Corner."
The Dangerous Object in the Corner. Go a double feature: the bird with the crystal plumage, and then the spiky dangerous thing in the corner.
Yeah, so if you've got a sculpture like that, beware. It's what was it there? Do you remember Dress to Kill?
Yes, I do.
Okay, now Saturday Night Live made fun of that, and I believe Gilda Radner was in a new outfit, and it was called Dress to Kill, and she's like, look at my new dress, and she takes off her overcoat and it has spikes everywhere, and her husband's like, that's fantastic, and he gives her a hug and gets impaled on her dress and falls down dead.
She was indeed dressed to kill.
Yep, and that was the whole point. So yeah, it just there's elements like that get dropped in often with Argento, where it's just like, you're making a really weird fucking joke right now.
These are really weird Argento-isms that you'll notice across his portfolio if you watch a lot of them. Also, I wanted to just say very quickly that it still bugs me that Jennifer Connelly is in Phenomena. It totally takes me out of the fucking the experience of watching the movie and just going, but that's Jennifer Connelly.
Why? Because she ended up in Labyrinth, or what?
Well, just a lot. Jennifer Connelly's been in a lot of movies that we know, and it's just like you don't expect to see that when you're watching a Dario Argento / Italian horror film.
Yeah, I'm surprised. She may not have been old enough at the time, but I'm surprised he didn't use his own daughter because he's got a weird relationship with her.
Yeah, it's very John Voight, Angelina Jolie level weird.
Yeah. Anyway, that being said, this movie is totally watchable.
It not just watchable. I enjoy it a great deal every time I watch it. It's got a great soundtrack, great cast, great story. It's very well paced too. As far as giallos go, some of them are a slow burn and or just drag in the middle, but Tenebrae is fairly well paced.
Oh, and something of note here too. Okay, actually, two things in that. I just realized I'm looking over my notes here, my Mexican laptop. So note to self, leave pics of gruesome murders all over your house in case someone breaks in, and it can be used to scare them away.
Yes, quickly do that. Very, very quickly. If you don't have that, get it done fast.
God, because you'll understand that if you actually watch this movie and go, oh, okay, I get the joke now. But also... Okay, when we come up to the question of why this would have been on the Nasties list, something to keep in mind is that the character of Jane, and she does have a pretty bloody sequence. Actually, I call it the paint the wall sequence. I love it.
Yes.
She was played by Veronica Lario. And at the time, she I think just before this, or actually just after this movie was made, she became involved with Silvio... I'm going to butcher his last name.
Just do it.
Berlusconi.
Yeah, Berlusconi. That's right.
Okay, and he's an Italian politico at this time, and actually, I think he still might be. But he wanted to downplay basically her role in this movie because they were having a relationship, and they didn't actually get married, which is really weird. It's like, wait, so they've had this relationship, and they had 3 kids before they got married. And that wasn't until like 1990, and he wants to downplay that she was in this Dario Argento movie.
Well, that's politics, my friend.
I guess, but I'm wondering if that might have been an aspect of, oh, hey, we don't want to upset our Italian comrades, so we're going to throw this on the Nasties list.
That's a little far-reaching. I don't know.
Maybe not. But so then, do you want to go ahead and get into whether we think it should be on the Nasties list?
Sure. There's. Well, here, let's do the wrap up first so we know what we're dealing with here. 16 scenes of violence, gore, or cruelty. That's 16. 2 scenes of sexploitation. It had shoplifting, dirty old perverts, John Saxon in a sensible fedora, hairy macho bullshit, 3 Bs of a giallo, the whole plethora of lesbian stereotypes, and the best theme song this side of a Brian De Palma soundtrack.
Okay, now, oh, man. So something else here too, real quick. I wish I'd never written that book. Is said by the author,
right?
And in this case, he actually authentically wrote it. It's not like a previous movie we've covered. Right. But I wrote here: did Stephen King feel that way about Rage?
I kind of feel like this, like it might have been a Stephen King style. Not swipe, but Stephen King might have been the archetype for this character.
Yeah, he kind of gives that sense because there's been actually I think it's kind of falling to the wayside now, considering how personable Stephen King has become over the years. But I remember back in the 80s, people were like, "Oh, people who write horror must be really scary people," and it's like, are you fucking kidding me?
Right? Yeah, not really scary people. Scary if you think obnoxiously withdrawn is scary.
This is true. He is pretty awkward in interviews. But anyway, so I think we've moved beyond that at this point.
And he looks like kind of a chimpanzee. So yeah, Tenebrae. Does it deserve to be on the Video Nasties list? There's some pretty violent scenes, some fairly gory scenes. There's a fair bit of nudity. Nothing really sexually related, though. It's just kind of incidental nudity. The lesbian stereotypes and the 2 just kind of tacked on lesbian characters in the middle of the film.
It does have a female detective, which is really interesting, because I think this is one of the rare occurrences where you see that in an Italian film.
Right. You know how the Academy will award someone a statue for a film that everyone is like, why did that win the award? When in reality, they're just kind of giving them the award for another great movie that they didn't get it for?
Yeah, I'm kind of aware of it.
I feel like this might be an honorary nasty banning for Tenebrae. The cover of the poster and the VHS cover, a very iconic image of the freshly murdered lesbian with her head hanging over the staircase. I think that had a lot to do with it. I think the lesbian scenes had a lot to do with it. I don't know if this is really nasty enough to deserve banning and confiscation. It's up there, though.
Yeah, again, the paint the walls scene. That's a brutal ass scene, and there's also something that Argento loves to do. Murder has to be accompanied by breaking glass.
Right. Yeah, that is a recurring scene in his films.
So I don't know. It's similar to my impression of Cannibal Man, where it was like, no, there was something actually more brilliant that you were kind of missing out on because you couldn't overlook like one fucking head chopping scene. You know. Definitely. So in a way, I can understand maybe just for a couple scenes, and of course that box cover, why they would put on the nasties list. But overall, I think it's unfortunate. I'm going to say no. I really don't think it belongs there, because I think it's one of those films when you sit down and you're watching, you go, oh, okay. With the exception of a few scenes, there's something much more going on here, and it's so much more interesting than we were led to believe. Right.
It is not one of the mindless cruelty gore fests that we will be covering very soon on this show. It deserves the highest mark of, like their rated X or rated R or whatever. Children should definitely not be watching Tenebrae. But I don't think it deserves to be on the nasties list. I don't think it deserves to be banned and confiscated. No, not at all.
And aside from the lesbian aspect, I think it was the casual sex that did it.
Yeah, that very well might have been the catalyst there.
Because she was like, I'll take this guy playing an arcade game. I don't care. I need dick.
It's not the first time I've had to. I don't know where I'm going with this. So
I think what you're alluding to is how often you showing off your Pac-Man skills got you laid.
Well, that is true, but it wasn't Pac-Man. It was Donkey Kong Jr., by the way. So that's our show for this week. Our winner this week, after a strong battle, is definitely going to be Tenebrae.
Hey, if nothing else, we got the Goblin soundtrack going on into the next round.
Yeah, that'll carry us over until next week. Do you know offhand what we got next week?
Oh, I do not have that open, and I should have had it open.
You know what? I can have it open in 1 second if you just want to vamp for 30 seconds.
Oh, do you want me to vamp? Let's see. Oh, by the way, something that we did not mention is that this movie also has a fucking ninja guard dog. And that sequence is just so insane. And what's weird is that it ties in another character that is so superfluous to the plot. We're introduced to her, and it's just like, okay, so why is it? And at first I was like, I don't know who this character is. And then it took me a second. Oh, I know who it is. And I'm not sure that this makes any sense. It's like, it almost gives the killer superpowers to know exactly who to kill.
Right. That kind of is a leap of
faith.
Faith. Thank you. A leap of faith. Sorry. Okay. So I got the sheet up here. Next week we've got Inferno and Driller Killer. So we're going to be having another Argento.
Wow. And why am I blanking? That's not Abel Ferrar, is it? For Driller, that's who directed Driller Killer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I believe so.
Yeah, and man, that cover, by the way, that cover alone is exactly. I'm not sure about the context, because I've never actually watched Driller Killer, but the cover alone, I'm pretty sure, is why that was put on the nasties list.
We do kind of, from the documentaries we've watched, we do know that it's a kind of a foregone conclusion. We do know that Driller Killer was put on the list because of the cover, but that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to lose to Inferno. So, who knows? Who knows? There's really no way to say.
And it is Abel Ferrara versus Dario Argento.
Yeah, Abel Ferrara versus Dario Argento next week. I wonder if John Saxon's in either of these. He's not.
Well, we'll leave that for next time.
Yeah, yes, we will. So that's the show for this week. I'm F13.
This is DZ.
And we shall see you at the Nasties.